Professor Singh, Vice-Chancellor of the English and Foreign Languages University, Mr. Rob Lynes, Minister for Cultural Affairs, British Council, India, Mr. Chris Bramwood, Director, English, South Asia, Professor Paul Gunashekar, Dean, English and Foreign Languages University, and Dr. Philip Davis, Education and Social Development Consultant. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues, members of the press, welcome to the inauguration ceremony of the 3rd International English Language Teacher Educator Conference. The conference, as you know, has been supported by ELTI, the English Language Teachers Association of India, and IATEFL, the International Association of Teachers of English as a Foreign Language. We thank them for their support, and we thank our principal sponsors, Oxford University Press, Cambridge University Press, and Trinity College London for their support. We hope you enjoyed the first session of the morning. Did you enjoy it? Good. And that you're looking forward to the excitement that the rest of the conference will bring. Before I move on, I must apologize on behalf of the Minister of Education, Mr. Palam Raju, who at the last minute was unable to attend the inaugural ceremony due to the Parliament session and accompanying the Prime Minister to Kolkata. So he sends his apologies and his best wishes to all of us for a good conference. I'd now like to invite Mr. Rob Lynes, Minister of Cultural Affairs for the British Council, India, to give the welcome address.
Thank you, Alison, and very good morning to everybody. How are you all feeling? Great. Okay. Well, Vice-Chancellor, Professor Sunaina Singh, Professor Gunashekar, colleagues, speakers, delegates, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to warmly welcome you all here to the 3rd English Language Teacher Educators Conference. And I'd like to start by thanking Professor Singh partnering with the British Council for the 3rd time and enabling this conference to be the largest conference for English language teacher educators anywhere in the world, or so my colleagues tell me. I was curious to know whether that fact was actually true, so I Googled it last night, and I typed in, where is the largest conference for English language teacher educators anywhere in the world? And I was horrified to find out it's in China. So we're in the wrong place. Of course, I am joking. It is TEC13, Hyderabad, India. And I think you should all give yourself a round of applause because you are at the largest conference for English language teacher educators anywhere in the world. However, I must say that the site that this statement came from was the British Council's. So I think it does need a little bit of external verification. What is important, though, is that the British Council, together with the university, has a shared vision for quality English language teaching and teacher education. And we are proud to be realising our vision together with all of you here today. This is not only a partnership between the British Council and the EFL University, but also between our two countries. The conference itself is supported by the 2 largest teacher associations in India and the UK, ELTI and IATEFL. And we would not be here today without the support of our principal sponsors, Trinity College London, Cambridge University Press, and Oxford University Press. And I would like to express my thanks for their support during this conference. Thank you. We're also extremely proud of the partnership between the British Council and the 11 state governments with whom we have worked since 2006, providing access to high-quality teacher training and resources for over 6,500 teacher educators and nearly 750,000 English teachers across India. And we hope to work with many more over the next 5 years. English language teacher education in a diverse environment is, of course, the theme of this conference. Addressing important issues such as gender, special needs, and multilingualism, but all from the perspective of English language teacher education. These are important issues because the Right to Education Act states, school is for all children. any community, caste or religion, girls, boys, urban, rural, rich, poor, abled or disabled, they study together. But as the national curriculum framework in India highlights, there are two key challenges. The first is the exclusion of the child with disabilities. And let's not forget, there are an estimated 650 million people in the world with disabilities, and many of those are children. And the second is the social exclusion of children who come from socially and economically deprived backgrounds, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, or minority groups. As teachers and teacher educators, each of you plays an essential role in providing inclusive education and equity for all your students. Like Rachna Khosla, an English teacher from Delhi who felt lost when she found out that she had a visually impaired student in her class and she didn't know how to address his needs. She sought guidance and support from a range of sources, provided a safe and secure learning environment, and helped him excel as a result. Her commitment to learning led her on a path of professional development that was both mutually beneficial for the student but also for the other learners in her class. And I am delighted that the 12th five-year plan addresses the issues of inclusion for those with disabilities like Rachna's student, and also addresses issues of social inclusion. A child in a rural school or from a poor family has as much potential as one from an urban or wealthy one. And all children have the right to access quality English language teaching and learning. Here today, we have teacher educators working with the Times of India's Teach India campaign, a project which aims to provide English language training to disadvantaged youth studying at NGOs in Delhi and Mumbai, students who were excluded or dropped out of school for a variety of reasons. And through the partnership, they have been able to access the skills that they need to find employment. For example, Sujit Kumar, a 17-year-old student who bikes every day through the lanes of an East Delhi slum to his college and NGO in the south of the city. A family income of 5,530 rupees a month and parental pressure to contribute to his father's small repair business has not dampened Sujit's ambition. He says, "I want to join a big company and earn a life of dignity." But he gets frustrated, unable to confidently participate in class discussions, mocked by others for his broken English, and excluded from a peer group comprising of students from, in his words, the high society. He says the reason is his lack of English, which his government school failed to provide. These are just a couple of small examples of the ways that we can promote inclusion. And I'm sure that you have many more that you will share with each other over the next few days. Where I'd like to leave you with 3 questions, which I hope we can at least start to answer over the course of this conference. How can we ensure that teacher educators provide relevant and appropriate resources and training for diverse groups of teachers to promote inclusive practices in their classrooms and schools? How can we ensure that teachers have the appropriate skills, knowledge, and depth of understanding of inclusive practices so no child in their own classroom is excluded? And how can we ensure that English itself, or any language for that matter, is not a barrier to inclusion? And conversely, how can English be a potential tool for social inclusion? This is the challenge that I leave with you today, and I know that you will meet it. I wish you all a very successful conference, and I look forward to meeting many of you during the course of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rob. I'd now like to invite the Vice-Chancellor of the English and Foreign Languages University, Professor Sunaina Singh, to give the inaugural address.
Mr. Rob Lynes, Minister of Culture Affairs, British Council, India. Christopher Brandwood, Director English, British Council. Alison Barrett, Assistant Director, English Partnerships. Philip Powell Davis, Education and Social Development Consultant. Professor Kumar Vadivedu. Distinguished panelists, speakers, organizers, press, and friends. Morning and namaskar to all of you. This conference on English language teacher education in a diverse environment, I think is a partnership that we hold to our hearts with British Council. I think we've all come together under this platform to discuss the role of English educators, teachers, managers of English education, institutions, and how we need to take forward the role of educators in a country which requires more and more educators, and also at the global level. You know, I would like to begin with an anecdote, and this is an anecdote I generally share. I think this is very, very important for us to remind ourselves. Mark Twain was once traveling in a metro, and the ticket collector comes to him and asks for the ticket, and Mark is searching his pockets and is not able to find the ticket. So the ticket collector waits there for 5 minutes, very patiently, and then he looks closely and says, "Mark, we all know you. I'm sure you have the ticket with you." And he moved on. After 45 minutes, when he came back, he still found Mark Twain searching his pockets and all the papers on his side, trying to find that ticket. The ticket collector was a little amazed, and he said, "Mark, that's fine. We don't need the ticket. I'm sure you have it. We all know about your integrity." And Mark Twain looked at him and he said, "Well, it's not for you that I'm looking for the ticket. I need to know where I'm going." I think that's very important. I think that's very important. This 3 days conference is also to set that roadmap for ourselves and to ask ourselves, how would we like to lead English language training, in the next decade or two? What would be our aim? What would be our goal? I think that is very important. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that we need to reset our goals and periodically assess our goals. I think it was C.S. Lewis, Irish poet, novelist, academic, literary critic, importantly, a professor of English like most of us here, who said, "The task of a modern educator is not to cut down jungles, but to irrigate deserts." I think that is the key, to regenerate, to refurbish, how best we can, evolve a new pattern of learning. I think that is very important for us. So some of the questions I thought that we need to ask ourselves is, what is the status of critical pedagogy in the textbooks, the issues of academic autonomy, academic responsibility, and the extent of the jurisdiction of the state. Questions that need to be addressed. At the core of all this is the need for a paradigm shift, I believe. As time changes, strategies of teaching must also change. To my mind, we need to bring together leadership, knowledge, and art of teaching. We also need to rethink on how best to train our educators, principals, heads, teachers, master trainers, the core values that we need to impart. And Martin Luther King said something very important at one point of time when talking about the core values. And he said, intelligence plus character is the goal of education. So are we doing that is something that we need to reflect upon. There are three aspects to this, I thought. that we need to think about. One is what must change. We need to rethink on that. And elements of building an excellent teacher education model. The third, commitment that needs to be made by educators to achieve this excellence. Teacher educators present here need to go back after the 3-day deliberations and the debates that you would have had. My recommendation would be that you should hold your own workshops in your own institutions, taking the key elements of this conference to your own institutions and reset your goals depending on the diversity of your institution. That should be very important. When we talk about change, we tend to look outward. The responsibility of shaping the overall dynamics of education is important, and it must begin with us. And are we doing that is something that we need to think again. So some facts and challenges I thought I will put across to my audience here. And what are these? Let me list some of these facts, and I think I have about 10 or 11. Please bear with me. I'm told this is an inaugural address, so I thought I'll do my best. I'm not going to leave here without leaving some fodder to chew on. So please be ready to, think about this. The first one would be, with the democratization, liberalization of our education system, there is an urgent need to train the teachers, specifically English teacher, to be more inclusive in a diverse environment, as the conference sets the tone. 2, Mark Tully at one point made an observation, the quantum of jobs that is being taken up are taken by the elitist people who know English. And that was in 2001. The index that he drew was 5% of Indians. Later on, we found that it was 12%. 2013, it has gone up to about 17%. But this needs to be borne in mind. We need to offer jobs to the diverse sections, of people from any and every group. Number 3, the future of English language teaching practitioner, ELT practitioner, must be able to teach general as well as specific Englishes. We have to teach English for social, academic, and professional purposes. The fourth point would be different groups of learners learn skills differently. The future teachers should be able to identify and understand the differences between the various learning styles, visual, verbal, and kinesthetic learning styles. Teachers must develop inclusiveness to accommodate the diverse social, economic, and cultural profiles of the learners. Sixth, teachers must be sensitive to gender issues. Care should be taken to make learning materials free of prejudice of any kind. Special workshops should be conducted to sensitize the ELT practitioners to issues like gender and caste. Seventh, teachers must produce amicable and goal-oriented pedagogic environment. Eighth, in a learner-centered communicative language learning CLL classroom, teacher must be proactive with an ability to conduct multiple learning activities simultaneously to make learning accessible to learners with heterogeneous IQ levels clustered in the same classroom. The ninth point, teachers should realize that there is a major paradigm shift. Previously, the emphasis used to be on the teacher and teaching. Today, it is shifted to learner and learning. 10th, our teachers must be given training in the use of ICT, the information and communication technology, and other electronic equipment to make learning real and enjoyable. And the last, I would say, with the globalization sitting on our front yards, there is a greater demand for English from our rural areas today. Need to address this should be a priority for us. Plato had said, the state is the citizen. Our times are a reflection of ourselves. A nation's true strength lies, as we know, in its intellectual leadership. True strength in intellectual leadership. This conference, I am sure, will focus on investing in the best practices of knowledge transfer while ensuring that learners sustain their creative and critical thinking and sensibility. The focus, I think, should also be on quality of innovation while keeping diverse learning environment in mind. India, as we know, is defined by its diversity. The need, therefore, is to build bridges between the multi-layered sections of the society. If the Government of India, GOI's priority, if I may say this, is RTE, Right to Education, it is in this direction they wish to increase the GER, that is the gross enrollment ratio. It is also committed, I must say, in increasing the number of teachers and training them in the inclusive education, which is a part of challenge of the 12th five-year plan. And under the 12th five-year plan, the focus of the government is on the quality learning outcomes. And to quote our minister, Mr. Palam Raju, building a capacity of qualified teachers, unquote, is the aim, is the goal of the 12th five-year plan. One of the other challenges in education structures and training the educator is the way we conceive the role of the educator. What we mean by education. I think it was W.B. Yeats who said that education is not filling of a pail, but lighting of an imagination. I think that is very important. And therefore, education has to mean greater social conditioning, inclusivity, to be the paradigm, initiatives for the differently abled children, as Rob Lynes has already mentioned. Stronger interventions need to be brought into to retrain and enthuse the dropouts from our schools. I think it is here that, Robert, I'm sorry, I'm also a literature person. I'm sorry if I'm dropping a lot of literary figures here. But it was Robert Frost who said that I'm not a teacher but an awakener. I'm not a teacher but an awakener. I think that's very important, and we need to constantly remind ourselves of that. So today, therefore, certainly there is a wider canvas of opportunities to our young graduates. If they choose to be educators, the need to introduce inclusive classroom practice is a given. And since every classroom is an amalgam of diverse individuals, the English language teachers and teacher educators need to be skilled and compassionate in managing diversity. This conference is both an opportunity to explore and celebrate the tremendous diversity of teaching learning approaches. This platform provides, in partnership with British Council, to discuss and debate, deliberate, and determine a roadmap for teachers, for teacher proficiency, classroom methodology, innovative evaluation practice, critical thinking, inclusiveness, use of technology, society's role in promoting English, and formalized teacher development. I'm certain this International Teacher Educators Conference will give us young, dynamic teacher educators and managers for the future. This conference is a proof that it is imperative for us to invest in the preparation of teachers so that the future of the nation is secure. I'd like to end by reminding ourselves what Radhakrishnan, our foremost teacher, had said: ideas control the world. Good and wise ideas triumph over blind forces. It is the dynamic conception which will remodel society. Let us all work towards remodeling teacher education and training. Thank you. And I must place on record our partnership with British Council. That will continue. If this is the third conference, I'm sure we will continue in the same spirit. And I must thank our other promoters as well. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Singh, for your inaugural address. I'd now like to invite Professor Paul Gunashekar to close the ceremony.
Professor Sunaina Singh, Mr. Rob Lynes, Mr. Christopher Brandwood, Ms. Alison Barrett, Dr. Philip Powell Davis, ladies and gentlemen. It's not accidental that EFLU is co-hosting this conference. The mandate of the Central Institute of English, the first avatar of the university when it was set up in 1958, was to improve the standard of the teaching of English in India, to provide for the study of English language and literature, to organize research in the teaching of the subject, to undertake and facilitate advanced courses, conferences, and seminars, and to train teachers. This last part of the mandate, quite remarkably, became CIE's first professional function when the first in-service teacher training program was organized from September to December 1958 for 28 teachers of English. The program included the legendary Jack Bruton of the British Council as one of the trainers and a very young Makanlal Tikku as one of the trainees. In its second avatar, CIE became CIEFL in 1972 when the Government of India decided to expand the scope of the Institute's academic programs by including the teaching of foreign languages and conferred deemed university status on it. Accordingly, the teaching of German, Russian, and French and the training of teachers of these three languages was introduced in 1973. Equally importantly, in the same year, CIFL launched its first distance education program, the Postgraduate Certificate in the Teaching of English. Thousands and thousands of teachers of English have done the PGCTE in the last 40 years, and it continues to be the flagship program of the university. In its third avatar, CIFL became a full-fledged central university in 2006, and the mandate of EFLU now includes disseminating and advancing knowledge by providing instructional, research, and extension facilities in the teaching of English and foreign languages and literatures in India, as well as training language teachers in methods and approaches appropriate to the Indian context and providing expertise in language and teacher education to foreign professionals. It's evident that teacher education and development have always been central to the goals of this premier institution. What has cemented EFLU's status as a center of excellence in English language education is its unique teacher education outreach program operated nationally through the 17 English language teaching institutes, 15 district centers of English funded by the Government of India, and 19 district centers of English funded by different state governments. We're particularly happy to have the directors and faculties of several ELTIs and the chief tutors and faculty of the district centers in our midst today. A word about our long association with the British Council. We know that over the years, scores of EFLU faculty and trainees have done postgraduate courses in British universities, courtesy of the British Council. What we perhaps don't know is that the initial funding for the Institute came from not only the Ford Foundation, but notably faculty support from the British Council, particularly in the form of Bruton, Barron, and George, the big three of British ELT at the time. We're therefore delighted that 55 years later, the relationship between the university and the council continues to flourish. This landmark conference, ladies and gentlemen, is a celebration of the many successes in teacher education that we have enjoyed and a timely reminder of what remains to be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Gunashekar. I'd now like to ask our volunteers to present a small token of our appreciation to the dignitaries on the stage for their support and guidance for this conference.